I think it's a good time to move on. We'll start out with one of the big boys in this division. It's a 2-horse race this year,
Yeah.
and the Tennessee Titans.
Yep.
I think.
They haven't really made a big offseason splash. Not really too many
No,
additions.
yeah,
Nothing.
been a pretty bland one. They lost a lot of pieces, but didn't really bring in anyone.
Yeah.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
They brought in a Hall of Fame wide receiver in Julio Jones.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen it yet, we did our bold predictions, and we have a pretty good one for the Tennessee Titans.
I think so.
So,
yeah. Actually, I got to go
but-
back. I forgot what it was.
it's Julio Jones breaks 2,000 receiving yards.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Spoiler
alert.
Yeah. The Titans, they have an interesting season outlook, in my opinion, because they lost Arthur Smith, their offensive coordinator, to the Falcons.
Yeah.
And he was kind of the one that I guess Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill really developed, and that's when the Titans became the big threat that they were. They were always good, but they were never a huge threat. But with Arthur Smith behind that offense, that offense was really scary. I mean, Derrick Henry has been one of the top backs in the league, and so losing Arthur Smith to me, I think, might actually be one of their biggest losses this offseason, in an offseason where they lost a lot.
And that's what's keeping me hopeful. Is as a Falcons fan, it was just Arthur Smith's production, and because I want to get, I'll eventually get to who's probably going to be their new number one tight end, and the potential production that he can bring. But yeah, just that was probably their biggest loss in the offseason. But they did lose Jonnu Smith, Corey Davis, their two of their top three receiving targets, and they lost almost everyone in their secondary. But it's similar to Jacksonville. It didn't really matter. They had one of the worst secondaries in the league last year. So it didn't really play. I was not going to play that big difference, but they are bringing in Janoris Jenkins from the Saints, I believe. They did draft Caleb Farley and Elijah Molden as well. So it's going to be very similar to the Jaguars, where they're going to have I just had it. They're going to have their veteran Kevin Baird is going to stay at safety, but then they're probably going to have Farley on one side, who's got some question marks, and he's going to be pretty raw. Janoris Jenkins on the other side, and potentially Elijah Molden as well. So it's just going to be a very young secondary. But that being said, it couldn't really get any worse than it was last year for them. They gave up. They were 24th in points, 28th in yards. A lot of that is some of that you will say with the yards. They led a lot last year, so they probably had some garbage time yardage. I remember I was at the Bears Titan game in Nashville in October, and they got up 21-3, and then the Bears scored, I think, two late touchdowns just randomly. So they went into prevent defense, but they're going to need to fix that on the defensive side if they want to be Super Bowl competitive. But now with the addition of Julio Jones, if they can have a similar offensive production that Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator was able to develop for those guys, then they could be really good. Because A.J. Brown is going to turn into one of the elite receivers in the league. The dude is a beast. He is actually
kind of already is.
Well, he's kind of like a little bit stronger Julio Jones. Julio Jones is the super athletic, and not saying A.J. Brown's not. Well, actually, I tell you, A.J. Brown kind of reminds me of DK Metcalf. I think those two guys are very similar. Very strong, very muscular, very quick. They'll go up and just manhandle the ball away from you. And I think Julio Jones is a great complement to that. Or he's a great complement to Julio Jones.
While Julio Jones is really big and physical, he kind of plays with a lot more finesse. And A.J. Brown plays with a nice grit that you like to see out of a receiver. And DK Metcalf, to me, in a way, reminds me a little bit more of Julio than A.J. Brown, because even though DK Metcalf, again, is really big and strong, he plays with a lot more finesse. And he plays physical at the point of attack, but then he tries to use his speed and last-minute little tricks to kind of create separation down the field. Whereas A.J. Brown can do those things, but he's really good running slants and getting yards after the catch. He's just a really good receiver in all phases of the game. And so you said he's kind of approaching being an elite receiver, and I kind of think he's already there.
That's fair. Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair to say. So
I really like their offense. I think their offense is going to be really good. Like you said, I think kind of rounding out, even if that defense can just go from below average to average and be like 16th in the league in points and yards,
yeah,
I think they'll have a 1,500-yard rusher in Derrick Henry. They'll have one of the top passing offenses in the league. And with the way that the NFL is shifting towards being a points-based league, I really think that would be plenty to propel them into a late season push.
Well, it's going to be really interesting to see how the Titans do this year, because before this Julio Jones trade happened, we were really just kind of questioning like the Titans might they're going to be on the playoff bubble, because I feel like they lost too much. They didn't really replace it. But then now bringing in Julio Jones, it's going to open up the running game already, and they already have one of the best running offensive lines in the league, with Taylor Lewan as their left tackle and Roger Saffold as their left guard, two very reliable piece on that offensive line. And then everyone else actually didn't rank that well in the passing game, but would you believe me if I told you that they ranked really well in the running game?
100%.
In the run blocking. So, but what that's going to do though, in adding Julio Jones to the opposite side of the ball, then they did bring in Josh Reynolds from the Los Angeles Rams. He is going to be their slot receiver. If they can continue to do excellent scheming that they did last year, and if the new offensive coordinator is able to continue what Arthur Smith had started, this offense could be one of the best offensive that we've seen. Because they're going to run the ball amazing. A team like Baltimore is not going to be able to put 8 guys in the box and stop Derrick Henry, because if you get Julio Jones on the outside, Ryan Tannehill is, I would say, is an above average quarterback. He threw for just under 4,000 yards and 33 touchdowns last year. So it's not like he's a game manager, so to say.
No, definitely.
And I'll say this, and this will probably be my final take before we go into what the projections on the Titans schedule will be. But a guy to watch out, I would say, for the Titans, especially receiving wise, is going to be Anthony Ferguson, their tight end from last year. Janoris Smith had 448 yards and 8 touchdowns. A lot of those obviously were red zone plays, because they were able to scheme certain positions to get Janoris Smith open, and he's a big guy. And Anthony Ferguson is the same weight and only 1 inch smaller than Janoris Smith. So I think he could potentially have a big year as someone to maybe potentially watch out in fantasy if you're needing the guy. If George Kittle, your star tight end, is out, I think he could potentially be really a big end zone target, something that will work really well, because A.J. Brown and Julio Jones is going to get, and Derrick Henry is going to get a lot of attention. Yeah.
Shout out to Harvard football there.
Shout out to Harvard football guy. To the Crimson. Not the Crimson Tide, just the Crimson.
But getting into the projection, so I have the Tennessee Titans coming in at 12-5.
Okay.
They have an easier open to the season. So they play Arizona at home, and then they go to Seattle, and then they play Indianapolis at home. And I have them winning those 3.
What's easy about that?
The fact that they play Arizona and Indianapolis at home, and then their away game is to Seattle.
That Cardinals, not easy. That Cardinals offense is going to shred their secondary.
Well, the Tennessee offense is going to shred the Cardinals secondary.
It's gonna that one. I might want to take the over on that football game.
Yeah, exactly. I think Tennessee will come away victorious. So I have them winning weeks 4 and 5. They go to the Jets and then to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
But then starting in week 6, they play Buffalo, Kansas City, Indianapolis, and Los Angeles.
That's a tough
Buffalo and Kansas City are home games, and then Indianapolis and Los Angeles are away games for the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those 4 games is the toughest stretch of their season, but I have them losing the majority of them.
Yeah. Well, and that's
just – but those are the 4 of the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
So,
well, especially – Chiefs, Bills, and Colts. Those are 3 of the 4 division winners that we had. So we're really going to see where the Titans can come out of that victorious. and with the
Yeah.
positive record.
The,
Then they're going to be a
yeah.
legitimate threat to win the division. I still don't know if they're
Mm-hmm.
going to be better than the Colts. I think the Colts are a little bit more well rounded, but I
Yeah.
do agree though. If they can really not beat, but also just compete with the Bills and the Chiefs,
If they can go 2-2 in that stretch, that's huge.
It does help that the Bills and the Titans game are home. Sorry, the Bills and the Chiefs games are home. Are here in Nashville. So
yeah.
But
then after that, I was gonna, sorry, go ahead.
And I was going to go. Then after that, the day they play the Patriots and the 49ers. The Dolphins, that Week 17 game against the Dolphins, that could be very interesting because based off both of our projections, that could be a play-in type game.
That could be a wild card spot.
That could be a wild card spot potentially.
Yeah. And so I actually have it as that. I have Miami being the 8th ranked team in the AFC, and then Tennessee being 7 at 12-5.
Yeah. Okay.
So I like what they did. I know in some of our earlier videos in the offseason before the Julio Jones trade, we're a little bit critical that they lost a lot, and they probably won't be able to replace all that production. But adding Julio Jones puts all that to bed.
Yeah.
And so I think that they are a playoff team, and they have a very good chance to win this division. It's kind of a toss-up between the Colts and the Titans.
Well, it is if Julio Jones can stay healthy. If Julio Jones can't stay healthy, then they're exactly to what we were talking about before the Julio Jones trade, because he's not doing them any good on the sideline. And I hope he stays healthy. I hope he has a phenomenal year. He was arguably one of the best Falcons to ever play, at minimum top 5 for sure. And we'd love to see him do well. And I think that this is a great setup for him. I wish the defense, I wish it was a better, well-rounded defense, I will say. But that being said, I think they're going to have a little bit better pass pressure this year. That's one thing we haven't talked about. They did bring on Bud Dupree and Danico Autry as well. But that being said, their secondary is going to be a big question mark for them. And so they're going to need Julio Jones to stay healthy because I feel like they're going to have a lot of high-scoring football games, which is crazy to think because 2 years ago they had the best defense in the league, and they were a run-heavy team. And now it's like, man, their defense has left the building, and they spent all their money and resources on having one of the best offenses in the league.
Yeah. It is crazy. That is just kind of the way the league's going, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But it's just amazing how quickly it turned around. So
yeah.